Hi, everyone. My name is Leslie Pyle, and I'm with HireMyMom.com. And today I'm excited to talk to Julie Fry. She is the founder of Your Expert Guest, which is a podcast guest booking agency. So if you've never heard of that, now you have. So this is a really fun business that she's starting. I'm going to let her share a little bit more about what she does. Hi,
Thanks.
Julie.
Hi. Thanks so much, Leslie. I'm really excited to chat with you a little bit more about podcast guesting and why it's such a great way for business owners to build their visibility. I came to this business after selling my last business, which was a networking organization dedicated to supporting moms in business and also helping them build their educational foundation around what it takes to run a successful business. So I did that for about 6 years and then just sold it in January to one of our other team members. So it was exciting to take a few months off and reflect on what I wanted to do next. And honestly, I was walking my dog and it kind of came to me as an epiphany of how much I used to love connecting people.
Mhm.
I would often, when new members would join our organization, we'd hop on a call. I'd find out about, what they really needed in their business, what sort of struggles they were having. And then my mental Rolodex would come up with somebody that could help them either as a resource or a potential client or, that I just think they would hit it off. And so that was something I strove to do every day. And I also, on my walks with my dog, I listened to a lot of podcasts from business and entrepreneurship to parenting to Buddhism and all sorts of things, organization, and over the years I've built up a great network of podcasters too. So I realized, especially when the pandemic hit, that all of these businesses, particularly that relied on speaking to get the word out about what they did, like that marketing channel had then immediately been cut off. And podcast guesting, in my opinion, is an even better way to help get your message out because of the evergreen nature of podcasts. With speaking, it's kind of one and done. You give your talk and then everybody goes home. So you have great impact in the moment of what people are learning from you. But with a podcast, that's is available forever or until the podcast host decides to take the episode down or stop podcasting. Well, even then it still stays on forever. So I just saw it as a really great way to help business owners during this time. And so that was the reason that I started Your Expert Guest.
Yeah, that's really neat. Good to learn about. So, why would someone want to be a guest on the podcast? Like, what are some of the benefits?
Yeah, there's a number of different benefits. So number one, it can, this is probably one of the most overlooked benefit, is it really helps build the SEO or the search engine optimization for your business.
Mm-hmm.
So as most of us business owners know, when you just start out, it can be really hard to get found on Google.
Mm-hmm.
And the more real backlinks that point back to your website from other legit websites will help Google say, oh, this is a legitimate business. If people are searching for employment agencies for moms and they see like 100 different businesses that point back to Hire My Mom, then it's going to elevate Google's opinion of Hire My Mom and show your business higher up in the search results. So not that many other podcast guest agencies talk about that piece, but in my opinion, that's kind of number one. The other really great benefit is you can reach new audiences without any sort of advertising dollars. Mm-hmm. So again, Leslie's been on a number of podcasts, and when you're on a podcast that you're reaching a whole new audience that you wouldn't necessarily have access to. And because if it's an established podcast, most of those listeners are pretty highly engaged. They like to listen every week or every 2 weeks, however often the podcast host releases episodes. So when they bring somebody on, that automatically kind of puts you in that know, like, trust circle that they already have with the host. So it helps you get visible to a new group of people, which is super valuable. It establishes your credibility in whatever area that you have expertise in. So again, with Leslie's business, she is kind of the guru as far as both a place for moms that are looking for work that kind of fits their lifestyle, and for small businesses to find a legit, reputable place that will send them qualified people. So if she's on the right kind of podcast, it just further elevates her as this is the place to go. And then lastly, there's great networking opportunities with the host. So when you have an interview, you get to spend anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes chatting with the host. And oftentimes opportunities for your business will arise during that conversation. And then you add one more trusted resource in your own professional network that, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the road may come back to benefit you because of this conversation that you had on their podcast. So those are kind of my top 4. There are many other, but those are kind of the big ones.
Right. And I had considered, a couple of those, especially, getting in front of someone else's audience is always, a great benefit. But the one that really surprised me is the SEO, because, we know that, a lot of us know that, but you don't think of that when you podcast, or at least I didn't think about the benefit of having your website, your business listed, and then the links back to you. So I think that that's a great benefit that a lot of people may not think about.
Yeah.
So I know the next question probably people want to know is, how do you become a guest? If you feel like you have something to offer, where do you go? How do you do it?
Yeah. So I always suggest starting with your own personal network. Oftentimes you will know people that are podcast hosts, while they may not be hosting a show about your specific expertise. The podcast world is fairly tight knit. There's some conferences that are specific to the podcast industry, and they know a lot of other podcasters. So once you've decided that, this might be kind of interesting and a way for me to grow my visibility, possibly generate more leads, I would craft an email with your area of expertise and send that out to your podcaster friends. And just say, hey, I am looking to get on podcasts. My area of expertise is, I'll just use me, is I help experts showcase their expertise on podcasts, and let them know that this is what you're doing. Do you know, or who do you know that has a show that I might be a resource for? And send that out and see what you get back. You might follow up if you don't hear anything back in a week or two. So that's always the best place to start, because your network wants to help you. And they, especially now more than ever, I feel like small business owners want to help other small business owners however they can. So that's a great place to start. You also want to determine what your interview topics would be, because as a host, they are running their own business, they're doing this show, they're finding guests, and the more you can do to make it easy for them so they don't have to put any work into, okay, I like Leslie, I want to have her on my show, but I don't know what I want to have her talk about. So if you can outline what your area of expertise is. So for Leslie, she could talk about, for moms, if it's a podcast that's geared towards moms, how to find work to support your family in this time of pandemic, and put that out there as a potential guest topic when she sends that to her network of folks. So you could also include questions that you would want the host to ask you, because again, the more you can make their job easy, then the more likely it is that they'll say, oh, I'd love to have her on my show because she just made it easy. All I have to do is show up. We talk about, kind of her story. I ask her these questions and then I send it off to be edited. So really always think about it from the perspective of the host and how you can make it easy for him or her. There are other places where you can go to kind of announce that you'd like to guest. There are some Facebook groups that I would suggest that you check out. If you search for like podcast guest or podcast collaboration, there are a few groups out there where you see hosts posting both what they're looking for, and you see people also posting about what they can guest about. Typically, those shows are going to be newer, so they're not as established or they have not launched yet. So it's a great place to kind of get started and practice, because like anything, if you've never done it before, you might be like me. The first time I was on a podcast, I was just so excited to be asked that I put no thought in what I wanted the outcome to be. I didn't really think about what I wanted to, how I wanted to drive the conversation. So it was great fun, but I wouldn't say I got a lot out of it because I didn't have a strategic plan about what I wanted to do with the opportunity. Mm-hmm. So when you're just getting started, I would say practice first, and going to these groups is a good place to find shows to guest on. The last way that you can get on shows is to cold pitch the podcast host. So if you have identified, okay, this is what I do. So again, I just use Leslie as an example, and she's lucky because she's kind of got two avatars. She's got the small business owners, and then she's got the moms. So if she's wanting to get on podcasts that are geared towards moms that help them find work, she's going to determine what episode, what podcast do those women listen to, and then she's going to develop a hit list, and then she's going to do some outreach, and she's going to craft a letter that really identifies like why she'd be a good fit for the show. She's going to tell them a little bit more about herself and her credentials. She's going to showcase any shows that she's previously been on with a link to the episode so they can check her out. And she's going to provide the potential guest topic and what the listener takeaways will be. So she's doing all of those things to, again, make it easy for the host to say, yes, she's going to be great for my show, and get her scheduled. So those are some things that you can do to get started podcasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some great recommendations. And again, I hadn't thought about, looking on Facebook or places like that, or even just going to your network, because even if they don't have a podcast, they may be on have friends that host or have been on podcasts where they think you would be a good fit. So those are some great tips. So once you are on a podcast, how do you leverage that opportunity?
Yeah. So don't be like me. When I first was on a podcast in, I think, 2014, think about what's your objective. So is it that you want the networking piece? And if it's the fact that you want networking, you almost always get a little bit of time with the host before you go live. Let them know that, hey, I'm interested in getting in more podcasts like yours. Do you know of any other hosts that I can connect with? Ask them what they need help in their business, and see how you can be a resource for them, because good networking is always a give and take. So maybe that's your objective. If your objective is more to grow your email list, which is one of the big benefits of being a guest on podcasts, then develop a great lead magnet and tie it into whatever the podcast is going to be about. So for instance, I have a lead magnet right now, and it's, will podcast guesting be good for me or work for my business? Mm-hmm. And so when I'm on podcasts, that's something that I would be encouraging people to take that quiz on my website. And then, we generate an email list based on that. Then these are people that can get to know what kind of content I put out. And when the time is right, maybe they hire my company to book them on podcasts, or maybe they hire me for a strategy session where we can give them some tools so that then they can do it themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's awesome. So do you have any tips for reaching out to podcasters?
Yeah. So again, I think our natural inclination as humans is to talk about why we're so great. And that would be something that I would not recommend that you do, because if you approach it from the standpoint of yourself, you're putting the reader in that, like, okay, well, why doesn't she care about me? So when you are reaching out to podcasters that you don't know, listen to their show first. Make sure it's a good fit. sometimes you'll hear interviews on their show, but they make it clear that they don't accept guest pitches. And it's annoying if they're getting guest pitches, even though they say on their show, like, don't pitch me. So do your research, listen to their show. When you do reach out, use their name, use their podcast name, like give it an indicator that you have listened to their show, because nothing is more annoying. And we know this too, like when we get the solicitation robocalls and you know that it's not even a real person, like you just hang up. And so it's the same for podcasts, especially the larger ones that get pitched a lot. If you want to be able to stand out, show that you care about them, that you know who their listeners are, like their listeners is their really strong asset. And so you want to let them know that you understand that and that you're going to deliver value that's relevant for their audience. So personalize is probably my biggest tip there.
Yeah, most definitely. And don't make it about yourself. What value can you bring? Because instantly that's going to make them want to read more, like, oh, they can provide value to my audience. Let me see what that value might be, versus here I am. I'm so great. This is why I should be on your podcast. Because that's kind of like, you don't really want to go much further sometimes, unless you're a brand new podcaster and
you're just eager to have anybody on your show.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That's awesome. So you have any other tips for people that are interested or new to this? I know you said you had a quiz. So how would someone find that?
Yeah, it is on the homepage of our website, Your Expert Guest. So if you go to Your Expert Guest, and there's a button right at the middle of the homepage, it says take the quiz. So you can take the quiz, and it'll ask you some questions about your business. It's short, I think 10 questions, and then you'll get a response of how it will work for you.
Okay, great. Well, that's easy. And we'll put that in the description too. So if someone doesn't write it down or something, they can click on the link below.
Cool.
So, all right. Any final words or advice for our listeners, our watchers?
Yeah. Well, I would say that if you haven't thought about podcast guesting as a marketing strategy, I would strongly encourage you to get started. Now is a great time because if you speak to get the word out about your business, or you're utilizing things like social media, those change all the time. Speaking, yes, you could speak in virtual events, but you're not going to be doing live events anytime soon. So I would encourage you to try this out as a marketing channel. I have clients that are seeing great results from growing their email list to actually booking clients. I should have shared that when I guested with intention on a podcast, I received sponsors for my conferences. I sold conference tickets. I gained new members for my networking organization. So it was really a great strategy for me as a business owner to grow my visibility and help get the word out about what my company did.
Right. That's great. Well, Julie, we thank you for sharing your expertise on this. I'm sure that a lot of people gained a lot of great tips and insight on how to approach the whole podcast guesting realm and a new marketing outlet for them. So thank you. And again, I'll link to your website below. So if anyone has any questions or they want to take the quiz, they'll be able to do that.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thanks for the time to chat. This is really fun, and keep up your good work. I love what your company is about, and you're helping so many moms and small business owners.
Thank you.